Hello everyone and welcome to GTA Online Racing episode 13, and today I've got a nice little surprise. I'm going to show the fastest cars and vehicles in every single class in the game, fully modded. Now if you're new to my channel and this is the first video that you're seeing from me, there were a number of videos that I did quite a while ago where I showed the fastest cars in every single class in GTA. I took every car in the game around the same track and found the best lap time that each car could achieve, and then that gave me the list of the fastest cars in GTA. Now they were all stock, and a lot of people wanted to know whether changing them, modding them up, putting all the extra performance modifications on them, whether that would change any of the orders and stuff. But I just couldn't do that. It was totally unrealistic for me to first of all do it all again, because it took so long to do in the first place, and secondly to be able to afford to mod up every single car in the game, let alone find them all and source them all, store them in your garage, things like that. There was no way that I could do it all again fully modded. However, a modder recently gave me money. Well, I say recently, it was a while ago. It was before obviously it was all fixed, and I decided to put it to good use. I thought, well, I'm not going to use it for my own personal means. I might as well use it for YouTube, for you guys, just to help you guys figure out which is the fastest cars. So what I did is took the best cars from every class. So, the top 3 was sort of the maximum that I would choose, but any cars that were close together at the top of a list, I would take, fully mod them up, buy them obviously, fully mod them up, then take them around Cutting Coroners again, in the same way that I did in the first instance, to get a lap time for every single one fully modded. Now I didn't do every single car because that would be totally unrealistic, but I've done it for every single class, and the results are what you'll see in a few seconds. Just as a word of warning, if you're coming here expecting it to be totally different to the list that I put up, it's not. There are a few differences in 1 or 2 classes further down, but most of them are exactly the same. So it was worth doing as kind of like a final proof sort of thing, and there are a few differences, as I said, in a few of the classes that were close together, but mostly it's all the same. So motorbikes first, and we've all seen this lap time before. Now if you haven't been to my channel before and seen my previous videos, there is a playlist down in the description. I would suggest watching all those before you watch these, because they form the basis for this video essentially. I only tested the top cars from those videos in this video. I didn't bother modding every single car and doing it all again. So yeah, motorbikes, we've seen this lap time before in the fastest bikes discussion video, and it's the Barty 801 that obviously wins out with a 50.7 second lap. Now that, again, as I said in the fastest bikes video, that is faster than any Akuma has ever gone on this track based on the leaderboards. So there was no point in me even trying an Akuma, because it hasn't gone quicker. Nobody's managed to drive an Akuma quicker than this. If you think you can though, feel free to try. But the Barty is the quickest motorbike fully modded. I think we've definitely proved that one. So the next one's the most interesting one that people will probably want to see. It's the supercars. And obviously, there wasn't that. There was a big difference in lap time for me, I thought, but people still weren't convinced. So here you go. Here's a lap time from the Entity, which is a 54.8 second lap, and that is that's 6/10 quicker than what I managed with the Adder, and a lot more quicker than what I managed with the Cheetah. So those are the 3 cars that I decided to test, since, well, I didn't think that they were very close, but some people still didn't believe that the Adder would be slower. People still don't believe it now, but yeah, the Adder doesn't get quicker than the Entity just by putting the same mods on it. Basically, it's still the same. The Entity is still king, and I have to say that time with the Adder was kind of a one-off. It was lucky to get into the 55s. I would say, regularly it didn't get into the 55s. The Entity still has time to come. This isn't a perfect lap, but as soon as I got the 54, I thought, well, I'm not going to bother trying anymore. So yeah, the Entity was regularly getting mid 55s, which is what the Adder got. But that lap time from the Adder was just like one pretty staggering lap as a one-off really. So yeah, the Entity is still the quickest supercar even when fully modded. There's no getting around that. The Adder just doesn't have the traction and it's too heavy. Sports cars now, and we've seen this before. Again, I didn't bother testing any other sports cars because, frankly, when you've got a sports car like the Elegy getting a 55.0, which is faster than an adder, let me just say that again, the Elegy is faster than an adder around this track. When you're getting that kind of lap time, there's no real need to test any of the other sports cars. I did try out a Fauza actually, and that managed like a sort of a low 57-second lap time. You know, just the rest of the sports cars aren't on the class of the Elegy just because its traction is so good. I mean, it rivals the Entity in terms of traction. So yeah, there's no reason to test anything else. But if you think your Fauza is quicker, if you think your Carbonizzaire is quicker, whatever, there's the lap time that you've got to beat, 55.0 seconds. But yeah, I mean, when you're getting an Elegy that beats an adder around this track, you know, there's not much. I mean, it's probably the second fastest car in the game after the Entity, you'd have to say. It's certainly around this track. So yeah, that's that. Off-road next, and basically I'm doing all of these in order of the fastest lap time for the fastest vehicle. So that's why this came so high, because of the Sanchez. Obviously the Sanchez is a motorbike. Motorbikes are just in general a lot quicker. 56.7 from the Sanchez, you know, very, very quick. I didn't bother testing any other off-road cars because frankly there's no point. You know, there's no way a Bifter is going to get round there in a 56-second lap time no matter how much it's modded. So yeah, Sanchez is easily the fastest off-roader. If you think anything is quicker, there's the lap time that you've got to beat. But I can't see it really. You have to wheelie with it, just so you know, and you have to get the liveried version if you want to put performance modifications on it. The normal version, the way you can choose your colour, doesn't have performance mods available to it. You have to get the liveried one, and you have to wheelie to get that kind of lap time. So yeah, that's off-roaders. Sanchez, obviously it's unbeatable there. And the next fastest class is the coupes, with the Exemplar getting a 58.4. This car is just incredible. I get surprised by this car every single time I use it. This is also the fastest four-door car, as I mentioned in that video. The Sultan RS isn't going to be quicker than this. I mean, it isn't quicker than this. I have tested it, but if you want to try it yourself, fully modded, the Sultan RS is nowhere near getting a 58-second lap. And this isn't even a perfect lap from the Exemplar. I could probably get a 57 seconds. Also the Zion I tested as well, because there was only a second difference in the coupes video between the Exemplar and the Zion, but when they are fully modded that difference increases to 2 seconds, so the Exemplar gets a bit more of a boost out of modifications and extend that advantage really. So yeah, the Exemplar is the fastest coupe by a long way. It's the fastest four-door car by a long way. You know, that's it, simple as. There's no getting around that one. Yeah, Exemplar is the one to use for the coupes class if you're ever racing, and it's the ideal heist car as well for getaways if you want to travel with 4 people. So the next fastest class is the Sports Classics, and again, no change again. The Z-Type is the #1 car. It extends its advantage over the Monroe almost 2 seconds now, where it was only sort of 4 or 5 tenths I think when there was stock. But yeah, the Z-Type, it's just better in every single way. Lighter, it's better stats really as well. It's just a better car. The Z-Type is almost 2 seconds a lap quicker than the Monroe. It's much better. You know, there's no getting around that. Unfortunately, because I don't like the look of it, but you know, what can you do? If you aren't in a modded Z-Type, then you're probably not going to do very well in Sports Classics races, because you're just going to be so far off the pace. It's also very quick in a straight line, and some people have tested it and found that it rivals the Adder in terms of top speed. So you know, that's probably where it gets a lot of its speed, but it is very good in all other areas as well, especially compared to other Sports Classics. Nothing really rivals it. So yeah, they're all the same up to this point, but now we start getting a few differences. And the Muscle Cars class, the Dominator managed to pip the Ruiner for the top spot. Now the Dominator ended up second in the fastest Muscle Cars video, with the Ruiner first. And when I got a 101.8 in the myth busting video with the Ruiner, I didn't think anything would beat that. But the Dominator eventually, after you know, it's very hard to drive properly, but when you do manage to get it, it did manage to beat the Ruiner. It's only by 1/10 of a second though, so you know, they're pretty much exactly the same in terms of lap time. And the Gauntlet is still third, about 6/10 off the Dominator, but the muscle cars class is definitely the closest and definitely the most open as well. Personally, when I'm racing muscle cars, I choose the Gauntlet because it's a lot more stable. The Ruiner and the Dominator do tend to step out quite a lot and will spin up the wheels and stuff. The Gauntlet is a lot more stable, so although it's a little bit slower, over the course of maybe a 2 or 3 lap race, it's probably the best one to use. But the muscle cars class is definitely the one that's most open. You can choose any of those 3 cars and you will be on the pace in a muscle cars race. Just choose whichever's best for you. So, sedans next, and there's a change here as well. The Shafter becomes the quickest car when fully modded. The Shafter managed a 101.9 and that can go a lot quicker as well. I tested the other 2 first, really pushed those to the max, and then as soon as I got a 101.9 with the Shafter quite easily, I thought, well, there's no point in even trying anymore. It's easily the quickest. I don't know what it is, it just gets a lot more power, traction's very good. The tailgater really drops off when it's fully modded, by the way. The tailgater loses a lot of time. I mean, this was probably the closest class when there was stock, and the Fugitive manages to stay half a second away from the Shafter, so that's a reasonable one to use, but using the tailgater in a fully modded sedans race is suicide, really. It's just not on the pace at all. So yeah, I mean, it's quite a big change really from the stock cars class, well, the stock versions. The Shafter goes from 3rd to 1st, the Fugitive goes from 1st to 2nd, and the tailgater goes from 2nd to 3rd, and the differences in lap times get a lot bigger as well. So the Shafter's the one that you want to choose for sedans, although you could have a Fugitive as well if you wanted. Right, next fastest class is SUVs, and the Radius manages to take this crown now. Now the Radius always had better traction, and I remember saying this in the SUVs video. In their stock forms, the Baller was just so quick in terms of straight line speed, but it never had the traction and it never had the handling around the corners, and that's where the Radius got its time from. But the Radius was still about 1 or 2 seconds a lap slower than the Baller. Now, when you mod them, it's gained all that time back and it's quicker. It's half a second quicker than the Baller, and really it's definitely the best one to use. I mean, I always used to use the Radius anyway, when it was stock cars, because the traction helped. But yeah, I mean, now that you've fully modded them, the power difference between the Baller and the Radius isn't quite as bad, and the Radius's traction really shines through, and that's definitely the one to use. So yeah, I mean, that's it. That's the last one that there's any difference. But those 3 classes that we have just seen, there were a bit of a difference between fully modded and stock. So yeah, stock versions you want to use, if there's a stock race, you want to use the cars that I mentioned in the first videos. If it's not a stock race, if you want to fill up your garage, these are the cars to get, basically. So yeah, finally, compact class, the Blister still wins, and it actually extends its advantage over the Issy when fully modded. It was only like 0.2 of a second, I think, between the Blister and the Issy, but when they are fully modded, the Blister just gains that little bit more, so that's the one to use there. So as a final few comments, I just want to say, if you think your cars are any quicker than this, if you think the Issy is better than the Blister, if you think that the Carbonizer is better than the Elegy, if you think that the Fugitive's better than the Shafter, whatever you think, if you think the Gauntlet's quicker than the Dominator, I've put up all the lap times there for you. There are the lap times. You know what track it is, it's Cutting Coroners. If you have the fully modded Gauntlet, you can go on Cutting Coroners and try to beat my lap times. Simple as that. If you think you're any quicker, if you think you're better, if you think the car's better, there they are. I can't do any more than that. The lap times are there. I mean, really, I believe, I fully believe that these are the fastest cars for each class, but it's mainly just for you to see that, I'm not just talking a load of bollocks, and I am putting up some decent lap times here. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I hope it's helped. It was a little bit of a surprise, but I figured that, with me getting all that money from that modder, I had to do this, really. I had to show you guys once and for all, finally nail down which are the fastest cars and vehicles in every single class when they're all fully modded. And there are a few differences there as well, although it's not as clean cut as it seems. For example, I use the Gauntlet rather than the Dominator in muscle cars class. So yeah, let me know what you think about this video. Put all your comments in the comments down below. Like it if you enjoyed, like it if it helped, share it about. Let people finally know once and for all that these are the quickest cars in every class. Fill up your garages with these. So thanks a lot for watching everyone, I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all the support that you give me, and I'll see you next time.